All right, so I'm not going to be here just for the Torah Anytime people. I'm not going to be here tomorrow anyways, Thursday. I'm normally not here. Sunday and Monday I'm not going to be here because I'm going to be in Chicago. Tuesday is Lag BaOmer, so we're probably not going to be having a shiur on Tuesday. You guys are going to be away. There's a trip on Tuesday, and Wednesday is doubtful because the trip usually you come back late, so we'll see. But for those of you who are not going to, since we don't have shiur, so to keep you occupied, you might want to read the how to run a Shabbos table. Now, I mean, the reports keep coming in. I once saw a commercial on TV for the Ponderosa Steakhouse. They had a commercial. It was non-kosher steak. They had this commercial. In this commercial, they show you this steak and like a baked potato and I think lobster or something. And then this guy with a really appetizing voice, he says, if you see this commercial and don't drive out to Ponderosa right now, it means you're not hungry. Right? So I said, if you see this and you don't buy this book, that means you don't want to improve your Shabbos table. Now, the reports have been coming in, gentlemen. The reports have been coming in. I got there's a Mr. Goldman who told me that he read this book and immediately got a promotion at work. And there was, I think, a Mr. Blumenfeld, who told me he read the book and his mother-in-law canceled an extended visit. And there was a Mrs. Hashgacha, and there was a Mrs. Krause who said that she read the book and immediately sprouted wings like angels in heaven. So, listen, it's there. It's available for anybody who wants. It's $14 on PayPal. Dovid B. Kaplan, B as in baseball, Dovid B. Kaplan, Kaplan. If you want to improve your Shabbos table. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Was that good? Okay. Please. Not everybody at once. Please. Please. Wait in line. Please. Okay. So, yesterday we were talking about the Tumas Kohanim. Meir asked a very important question afterwards. Why is it that if a Kohen becomes Tameh, and by the way, nowadays we are all considered to be Tameh Meis. We're all considered to have come at some point. Please keep that door open. Keep that door open all the way. Thank you. We are all considered to be Tameh Meis. Either we were born in a hospital, which most people are. Sometimes these people do, at-home births. They plan at-home birth. They're the natural way. And some people actually, there's something called underwater births. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. We don't do that. No. We just do. Go to the hospital and have the birth with doctors. We're not interested in your kid becoming a scuba diver. We don't do that. So I don't understand why underwater. And why not just go into a rocket ship, go to Mars? So we don't do that. So Meir asked the following question. Since we are all Tameh Meis, everybody has come into contact with a dead body at some point or other, even just being in a hospital and you're under the roof. Or if you've attended a funeral and you've been within 4 amos of the dead body, it's about 6 feet. So we are all considered nowadays Tameh Meis, which is one of the reasons why it's prohibited for us to go up on the Temple Mount, because we are Tameh. And in the absence of the Para Aduma, which is the red heifer, the red cow, we have no way of getting out of being Tameh Meis. So we're all Tameh. Okay, we have no way until the time of the Mashiach, when we have a Parah Aduma again, we'll all be Tameh. Okay, now, so Meir asked yesterday, well, if a Kohen happens to have come into contact with a dead body, you're Tameh already. So why is it a prohibition to continue? So at that point, so why can't he come into contact with a dead body? So let's say a Kohen has come into contact with his next of kin, which he has to. But he becomes Tameh. So once you're Tameh, once Tameh, always Tameh. So why can't you continue coming into God? So the answer is like this. You have to understand there's a fundamental in Torah. There's a prohibition and there's a consequence. It's the same thing. I told Meir yesterday, same thing. You're not allowed to eat pork. I mean, let's say a guy takes a bite of pork. So now you're porculated. So you may as well continue eating pork. Doesn't work that way. If you stick your finger in an electric socket and you get electric shock, well, I may as well keep it in there. No, you try to break the socket. Each time the Kohen comes into contact with a dead body, he's transgressing a prohibition, no different than eating pork. Yes, you transgressed. Okay, you're Tameh. Tameh is a consequence. It's not because you become Tameh, you can't do it. Now you're Tameh, so you could do it. Doesn't work that way. It's that it happens to be a consequence. But if it's like, for example, if a man has a relationship with a married woman and they have a child, the child's a mamzer. What if the woman is past childbearing years? So there's no problem. You're not going to produce any mamzers. No, the prohibition is adultery. There happens to be that if a child is born, then the child has the mamzer status. But that just happens to be a consequence of the action. But the action itself is a prohibited action. And therefore, the Kohen has to break that contact as soon as possible. Yeah, go ahead.
So yesterday we were talking about the laws of Kohen as well. Is a Jew that owns a business allowed to have a Kohen work for him and tell the Kohen what to do?
Yes, a Kohen is allowed to have himself employed. Right, the fact that some don't work, they teach, doesn't mean that nobody's allowed to hear. So I mean, I told you, Woody Allen once said, "Those who can't do, teach, and those who can't teach phys ed." Right? That's what Woody Allen said, and I was a phys ed major in college, so I've got all the qualifications. What do you call it? So yeah, I've never worked a day in my life, but yeah, you could hire a Kohen. Yeah, Kohen could definitely work for his own, because that he's doing for his own benefit. Okay, now there's a very interesting, intriguing question. We read on Yom Kippur and on Tisha B'Av about the 10 martyrs that were executed by the Romans, that were tortured to death by the Romans. And if you remember that dirge, when in the service, it says the first two who were taken out to be killed were Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who was the nasi, who was the prince of the Jewish people. And it says that the Romans chopped off, they drew lots, who should die first. Neither of them wanted to see the other one die. Each one wanted to die first. And they begged the Romans to please kill me first before you kill him. Each one begged that he should die first, so they drew lots. And it turned out that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel got the first lot. They chopped his head off. So Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol, it says, he bent down and he picked up his head and he started crying. He said these eyes, the mouth that has only spoken Torah, and these eyes that have only the pure eyes, how he suffered such a fate. What's the obvious question? Put that thing down. There's a thing on the table. That thing, lay that down if possible. Yeah, thanks. No, that's always a question. That's a valid question. That could be anything, but that applies to even a person who stubs his toe. If a person stubs his toe, it also feels where there's no reason I should have stubbed my toe. That also applies. There's a question of degree. Why bad things happen to good people. What's the question in this specific instance?
Why is he mourning this other guy when he's about to have
Well, okay, that's why is he mourning the other guy? But what connected to this? What's the obvious question? Not why did he? How could he? He's the Kohen Gadol. How could he pick up this head? Have you pick up the head? Not why did he pick up? He picked up the head because he wanted to be on the ground. The question is, how could he? How could he pick up the head if he becomes tummy? What's that?
He's about to die.
Now, of course, he's holding it. What's that? Especially as a Kohen Gadol. He was the Kohen Gadol. He's not allowed to come in. How is he allowed to bend down and pick up his head? He's allowed to die anyway, so why didn't he have never had a Big Mac. They may as well have a Big Mac because, I'm going anyway, I may as well. I've always wondered about this thing. How did they sell 70 billion of these?
Yeah, but didn't he?
He acquired it? Not quite, he acquired it. You're giving a good answer, though. He didn't make a kinyan on it. Yeah, it's not like, okay, I'll put it in my head collection, an Indian headhunter. No. You're closer. There's an opinion that if they were under one roof, he's already tamei from that item. So you can't add on tuma to that item.
Yeah, but you just said that it's only a consequence.
That's only to go to a new source of tuma. But if he's already tamei and he's under the roof, he's going to stay tamei anyway.
So if I ate one pork, I'm allowed to just eat the rest?
No. Again. No. Let's get this cleared. I don't want anybody. Hey, Kaplan said we could eat pork. No. I don't want to be misquoted on that. Not just yet. The idea. Listen. It's not that it's creating a new type of tuma. He's tamei right now, and he's still tamei. You know what they asked? Where this came up? A man's wife died, and he was in the morgue with his wife's body, which he was allowed to be. Then they brought in another body into the morgue, which was not a relative of his. Does he have the halachic obligation to leave? Because the answer is you can't add tuma onto existing tuma already. He's already tamei and is currently tamei. So that he's already, if he's under one roof or within 4 amos of it, where he can't get away, so then he's, what do you call it? He's not adding on to anything. He's tamei anyway. That's one of the answers that's given. The other answer is that there's an interesting halacha. There's something called a mace mitzvah. Does anybody know what a mace mitzvah is? An unattended body. A Jew is walking along, and you see a body, and there's nobody around, there's a dead body. Then the halacha is that anyone, including a Kohen Gadol, has to become, the only thing only person a Kohen Gadol can and must become contact tuma is if he comes across a dead body which is unintended. It's called a mace mitzvah. Well, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, his head is lying, and that goes to your question, why would he pick it up? His head is lying in disgrace in the ground, so he picks up the head because it's a mace mitzvah. There's nobody around to attend to it, so he's going to attend to it. So he picks it up. He's supposed to die in a few minutes, but he doesn't know if he will or won't. Maybe a miracle will happen. In the meantime, I got to attend to this body, so I pick up the head because the head is in a state of disgrace, and if I have an opportunity, I'll bury it. Number 2. Number 3 is a brilliant answer that I heard. If a person is in a life-threatening situation, we have every obligation to try extend our life as long as possible. Now, the Romans are about to kill this guy, like you said. Again, your first name is? Adam. Adam's like, correct. The Romans are going to kill him. But if I could figure out a way to get the Romans to put it off for a few minutes, I'm obligated to do that. I have to extend my life by as long as I possibly can. So he picks up this head and he puts on a show for the Romans. While he's putting on this display, the Romans are happy to watch this. So that's going to extend his own life. And to extend your life, all averas other than the 3 cardinal sins, you're allowed to transgress. So it's a brilliant answer. So he picks up the head and he starts talking to this head of Reb Shimon Gamliel, which will extend his own life, which he's actually obligated to do. Okay, now let's go on. That was just entertainment. Now let's learn some Chumash. If you take a look later on, I want to show you something. As I said, this is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. By the way, it's not my idea. Page 680. Anybody who came in late, please take a Chumash. We're on page 680. The Torah says, no, I think I went too far. Sorry. 676. Actually, the bottom is 674. It says, Kol Ish. Everybody say last line on 674. Kol Ish asher bo mum mizera Aaron. Any man from the descendants of Aaron who has some sort of physical imperfection, he calls it a blemish. Lo yigash lahakri vesishe Hashem. He does not serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Mum bo. He has a physical imperfection. He has a blemish. Es lechem Elohav lo yigash lahakri. He does not bring any of the offerings. So the Torah says over here that a Kohen who has some sort of physical flaw. Now, there's a list in the Mishnah. The Mishnah in Bechorah brings a list of the various physical. Some of them are what we would call actual physical deformities. Real literal physical deformities. But something as inconsequential as being left-handed disqualifies a Kohen from serving in the Beis Hamikdash because it's considered an anomaly. You have certain advantages when you're a lefty. You can play first base. And generally in one-on-one sports, lefties have an advantage, like ping pong, because lefties are used to playing righties. Righties aren't used to playing lefties. That's why you find a disproportionate amount of tennis champions are left-handed. It doesn't make any sense. The answer is because the righty is used to playing righties. All of a sudden you play a lefty and everything is backwards, whereas the lefty is used to playing righties. And I know very well because my father, was a lefty. And for in the early days, he destroyed me at ping pong. Right, until things changed eventually. But what do you call it? But being left-handed is an anomaly. Being left-handed is an anomaly. There seems to be evidence that left-handers have a certain type of intelligence, a higher form of intelligence. You see a lefty, generally it's a good guy to sit next to on a math test. And what do you call it? I said generally, the what do you call it? And they've done studies. Lefties, you know, there's something. I mean, they are odd, but they've done studies on them. Okay, now in halacha there are all sorts of weird things about being like you got to put your tefillin on your right hand, and how you what do you call it, a lulav and an esrog, and there are all sorts of shayos for a lefty. If the idea is like this, in the Beis HaMikdash, the basic idea, then we'll get to what the deeper idea is. In the Beis HaMikdash, we want, when you see a military parade, you see any group of people in uniform, it's impressive. Now you see a military parade, ever see a military parade, a group comes by, they're wearing the green, and then the gray, and then the red, and then the thing, they come by. There's something impressive about seeing people in uniform. When you walk into the Beis HaMikdash is a distinguished place. And we want there, it smells good because you have the ketores. There's beautiful music in the background, absolutely no rap. There's beautiful music in the background for the Levium. And the Kohanim are wearing very, very prominent uniforms, and it looks very impressive. To see a guy doing something, you know, imagine you know, the honor guard. Imagine there's an honor guard, and one guy's got the rifle on his left shoulder. That just messes up the whole picture. So something, again, this is only one example. There are those that say if a Kohen wears glasses, that's considered nowadays we don't consider, if a guy's wearing glasses, we don't consider that a flaw. A guy's wearing glasses, we consider him Jewish. So that's not considered what we call a physical blemish or a physical imperfection, but that's what the rule is. The deeper idea over here is, there are two deep ideas, very deep ideas. One of them is that religion in general, the Kohanim are the religious devotees of Klal Yisrael. They're the ones who serve in the Beis HaMikdash. There are many cynical people. Can we open that window over there? Oh, it is open. There are many cynical people who say, you know, only sick, unbalanced people gravitate towards religion. Right? If you're becoming religious, that means there's something wrong with you. Right? That means you're off. Something a screw came loose if you became religious, right? It's the opium of the masses, right? And what we want to demonstrate is, and that's by the way why a prophet had to be strong, he had to be wise, he had to be rich, he had to be tall. Prophecy was not, you know, it's not some guy who's having some sort of either convulsions or what do you call it, drug flashback. Prophecy is prophecy, and it's not some sick weirdo, you know, who smells remarkably like alcohol, you know, who's spewing out all sorts of nonsense. The emphasis is it's for healthy people, and religion is for healthy people. Now, having said that, it is true that there is a high percentage of people who are mentally unbalanced who gravitate towards religion, and they have these delusions of grandeur, which are usually religious delusions. I myself have met two guys who are Eliyahu Navi and one Mashiach. Right, and you know, and so they are these, you know, and you always find by the non-Jewish world, this guy is either he's Yashka, the guy thinks that he's Yashka, or he's the boards that Yashka got nailed into, or something, you know. And the guy's what do you call it? He's got these delusions of grandeur. You'll notice that people have who are delusionary. The guy never says, "Yeah, I'm Michael Jordan," because that could easily be disproven. Right, in several ways. Whereas a guy says, well, I had a communication from God, yeah, go disprove it. I had prophecy, well, go disprove, you can't disprove that. So we want, the Torah is emphasizing, this is not religion is not the realm of sick people. Religion is the realm of very healthy people, healthy physically, healthy mentally. And if you're doing something wrong in religion, the fact that you're unbalanced, people think, well, he became a Baal Tshuva and he became weird. We hear this all the time. It's not true. 100% not true. He was weird long before he became a Baal Tshuva. He was weird. He was no social winner before he became a Baal Tshuva either, right? And he happened to find a place where he may be. I remember a guy once in my early years. There's a guy who was just not, you know, he wasn't nothing wrong with him. He just wasn't very socially adept. And I'm sure that this is a guy who was bullied in school and he was picked on and everything else. And I remember I come walking into the room, he was standing in the corner talking to somebody here. And he said, well, one of the reasons I come here is because everybody's so friendly. He says, here, watch that. Everybody will say, well, even the biggest rabbis. And he turns to me. I was considered one of the biggest rabbis then. This was 30 years ago. So I was very flattered that he called me a biggest rabbi. So he said, even the biggest rabbis. And he turns to me and he says, hi, Rabbi. And I said, hi. You considering I'm a big rabbi. I said, hi. And he obviously found a place where nobody's bullying him and he's not going to be picked on and so on and so forth. But that's not this is where people. I've only become bigger, by the way. Then I was just what do you call it? It's been downhill. I mean downhill since then. So he crowned me a big rabbi. So at the end of the day, the Torah wants to emphasize, number one, that it's not the realm of the mentally disturbed and it's not the realm of the physically disabled, and all of a sudden now you became a religious tzaddik. That doesn't work that way. Number one. That's why the Kohanim have to be, and the Sanhedrin would actually examine them. That's one of the things the Sanhedrin did. The Kohanim who were serving that day would come before the Sanhedrin and they would look them over. They give them physical every day. The whole group of Kohanim that came into the Sanhedrin had to give them physical, had to give them an exam. And if you were not qualified to serve in the base of English, you had some sort of blemish, you were not allowed to serve in the base of English that day. Okay, number one. Number two, you have the Kohen Gadol. Now watch this. This is amazing. I'll tell you something. This is not my idea. Obviously. The Kohen Gadol has the strictest limitations. What are his limitations? Number one, the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to come into contact with any dead bodies, other than that exception that we made of a Mesa Mitzvah, but even his next of kin. Now, what is the idea? Let's go back for a second. There's another reason why the Kohanim are not allowed to come in contact with dead bodies. There's another reason the Kohanim can't come into contact with dead bodies, which is that the Kohanim are here as the teachers of the Jewish people. They're here to teach us how to live. They're not here to help us once we die. In other religions, what does the priest do? Right? He has nothing to do with the person while they're alive. And then right before they die, he promises them a portion in paradise. So he's going to get them into the afterlife, into paradise.
With some payment.
What's that?
With some payment.
With some payment, a few Hail Marys, and there we go. Doug Flutie, and you're on your way. And here, the what do you call it? Here, the Torah wants to emphasize he can't help you once you're dead. He's here to teach you how to live. Once you're dead, you're on your own. And the one who especially this applies to, that's all Kohanim, but their next of kin, there's no limitation. With the next of kin, they have to be able to help out in burial. The Kohen Gadol is expected to be on a higher level. The Kohen Gadol's family members may feel, well, our father, son, brother, whoever it is, well, since he's the Kohen Gadol, he's got some protexia up there. And therefore, the Torah says he can't even come into contact with his next of kin. That they have to realize there's nothing they can do for him after they're gone. He can't do anything. That's one of the explanations. Now, that being the case, let's take a look at the Kohen Gadol. He's got the strictest limitations. Number one, no contact with the dead body. Number two, no physical imperfection. And number three, he's got to marry a woman who's pure. Right? She's never been allowed to have been married before. Whether divorced or widowed, he's not allowed to marry a woman. Okay. The Kohen Gadol represents the perfection of a human being, the highest level. Do you know that if a next of kin dies for a regular Kohen, let's say his father dies, he does not serve in the Beis HaMikdash because he's what's called an onain. An onain is somebody whose next of kin has died on the day that until the burial. When let's say somebody's father dies, chas v'shalom, on the day until the body is buried, that person is exempted, not allowed to perform positive mitzvahs. He does not put on tefillin. He eats without a bracha. He does not make nothing. He's not allowed to transgress, but no positive mitzvahs. Why is that? Kohen or anybody else. Why is that? Because there's only one thing he should be involved with and focused with right now, which is to do the chesed, to make sure the body is buried. That's the one thing. Nothing to distract him. And therefore, a Kohen whose father dies cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. The Kohen Gadol whose family member dies, he continues serving in the Beis HaMikdash as if nothing happened. Why? A Kohen Gadol. Why is that?
He's avatar.
What?
He's avatar. He's basically bigger than most people. He's bigger than one.
Correct. The Kohen Gadol has to be so far removed from anything physical, and I'm sure it hurts, but he has to be able to overcome any sort of emotion and physical connection to the world. He continues to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, even if he's a no-name. He's got to be beyond it. That's the level of the Kohen Gadol. So the Kohen Gadol represents according to the commentaries, what's the most perfect state mankind was ever in? Adam Rishon, Kodam Ached, Adam before the original sin. Now watch this. Before the original sin, there would have been no death in the world, and therefore the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to come into contact with a dead body, because he represents Adam. Before the original sin, there would have been no illness. Nobody would have ever gotten sick. There'd be no doctors in the world. Could you imagine? No doctors. If there were no doctors, there'd be no lawyers. It'd be a great world. So the Kohen Gadol, there'd be no doctors. There'd be no illness in the world. The Kohen Gadol is not allowed to have a physical imperfection, which represents illness. And if the Adam Rishon had not sinned, marriages would be perfect. Talk about miracles. Marriages would be perfect. There would be no divorce. There would be no widows, because there's no death. Person would get married, and this is it for eternity. And therefore, the Kohen Gadol has to marry a woman who's never been married before, because he is a symbol of Adam Rishon Kodam Ached. Okay, hold the questions, because I want to finish a couple more points. I'll take questions right at the end. Okay, if you take a look, very important. Okay, let's take the questions now, because I want to get to this, and this is extremely important. Yeah, go ahead.
Can a Kohen marry a woman who already married but didn't have relations with the initial marriage?
Is not if she was divorced. Once Kedushin was done, if she was divorced, he can't marry her. If there's a widow, yes.
Even if she didn't have relations?
Right, even if it doesn't matter. If she was divorced, the Kohen's not allowed to marry her. Okay? Now, if you take a look at Perek Chaf Beis Pasuk Lamed, 2230. 2232. Bottom is 680. Okay, don't worry, you'll get better. So it says, Ushmartem mitzvosai v'asisa masam Hashem, should keep my statutes and fulfill them. I am Hashem. V'lo sechalalu es shem kodshi, do not desecrate my holy name. V'nikdashti besoch b'nei Yisrael, I should be sanctified among the Jewish people. Ani Hashem mekadishchem, I am Hashem who sanctifies you. Here we have the mitzvah of the Torah, a command not to make a chilul Hashem. You know what a chilul Hashem is? A desecration of God's name, which is basically what people think it is where a Torah Jew does not behave the way he should behave. And people look at him and they say, wow, that's how a Torah Jew behaves. And the Gemara says, and that is a desecration of God's name. A Kiddush Hashem and a Chilul Hashem are two opposite things. A Kiddush, the Gemara says that when somebody looks and says, that's how a Torah Jew behaves, I feel bad for his father who had taught him Torah, his Rebbe had taught him Torah, he makes a bad name for Torah. He spreads a bad name for Torah. That's a Chilul Hashem. A Kiddush Hashem is when somebody looks at him and says, wow, that's how he behaves. His father is fortunate to taught him Torah. His Rebbe is fortunate to taught him Torah. That means that our behavior has to be in such a way that nobody looks at us, and as a result of us, whether we like it or not, being representatives of Torah, people look at us, and the minute you put a yarmulke on your head, you have just increased your responsibility level. Because as soon as you put a yarmulke on your head, people look at you and they expect better. They have certain expectations. And if a person, a religious Jew, does something wrong and people see and learn from him, that is called a Chilul Hashem. Now, the mistake people make is people think that Chilul Hashem is what happens in front of Goyim. Ooh, the Goyim were impressed. Ah, what a Kiddush Hashem. Because the Goyim saw it and they said, wow, look at what good Jews. That is a form of Kiddush Hashem. But the biggest Kiddush Hashem is among Jews, where it said, because you notice that the wording of the Torah is, V'nikdashti besoch b'nei Yisrael. That's the main Kiddush Hashem. People always think that when a couple of yeshiva guys get out on the highway and they help some guy fix his flat tire and then they splash off on the news, wow, Kiddush Hashem, you know, the Kiddush Hashem. That's because people are doing it in front of the Goyim, and we always care what the Goyim think. But that's not what the main Kiddush Hashem is. The main Kiddush Hashem is what we do among Jews. The biggest Kiddush Hashem is that when a guy walks into shul and sees you davening with kavanah, not that you're putting on a show. I don't mean putting on a show. I don't mean a shuckle performance. I mean that you're really davening, because you can tell when a guy's putting on a show when a guy's really davening. You know, somebody sees you learning, somebody walks into a room and he sees you're learning Torah, that's a Kiddush Hashem right there. That's the biggest Kiddush Hashem. The biggest Kiddush Hashem is when the Jews, it's the Jews that we care about. More than that, the most basic, and this is what's a little bit difficult that people forget this. What is the most basic Chilul Hashem and the most basic Kiddush Hashem? It's not giving up one's life when he should have given up his life. And it is giving up his life when he should give up his life. So, for example, the anti-Semite pulls out a gun, and he says, Jew, worship an idol or I'm going to throw you out of the airplane. And the Jew is not willing to be tossed out of the airplane. He worships the idol. Now, he's not liable for, it's not a capital offense, which it normally would be if a Jew voluntarily worshipped idols. It's not a capital offense because it was under duress, but it's considered a chilul Hashem. He's desecrated God's name. He should have given up his life. And if the Jew is willing to die, he says, either you worship idols or I throw you to the alligators. And he allows himself to get tossed to the alligators. That is a Kiddush Hashem. And if he dies, if he's not willing to get eaten by the alligators, he doesn't give up, he worships the idols, that is a chilul Hashem. It's not capital offense because it's under duress. But it is that's a chilul Hashem and that's a Kiddush Hashem. If you get on a bus and you're wearing a yarmulke and a little old lady gets on the bus and you get up and give her your seat, that's a Kiddush Hashem. The fact that anyone would do it doesn't reduce the fact that you've just made a Kiddush Hashem, especially because you're wearing a yarmulke. And people make the association with the yarmulke, they always make that association. If you're dressed you look like a Torah observant Jew, people they associate the behavior with that. That's just the way it is. I heard about a girl who got on a El Al plane. She sits down. She sits down, and this guy. She sits down, and as soon as she sits down, a guy comes over. One of the stewards comes over. He says, "Excuse me, young lady, are you traveling alone?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "So who was that little lady back in the terminal? There was a little old lady. You were moving her bags back and forth from place to place. Who was that little old lady?" Girl's nervous. El security, and I didn't think. She said, "I don't know. It's just a little old lady. She needed help. I didn't think I did anything wrong. I mean, I got all the, This guy asked me a question. Are you religious? She goes, "Yeah." As a seminary girl. She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We thought so, because only a religious girl would do something like that. And because you showed us you have so much class, we're putting you in first class for the entire flight." Oh, that you like, huh? That you like, yeah. The fact that she made a Kiddush Hashem. The fact that she made a Kiddush Hashem and she gets a reward that even Malachim can't imagine, I mean, that's nice. But right above Gan Eden is the first class section of an airplane, right? That's worthwhile, yeah. That nobody go, "Oh, Kiddush Hashem, I'll do that." Yeah, first class, why didn't you say so? Yeah, I know. Next time you guys go to the airport, next time you go there, there's a little old lady who's going to be safe. Hey, lady, come on, you're going to St. Louis. No, I don't want to go. You're going to St. Louis, lady. I want to sit in the first. Now I would love to tell you. By the way, and you know who that girl was? You know who that steward was? The steward was me. The little girl was my wife. Yeah, that's how we met. No, not really. Not really, but that's how all those NCSY stories end. And that little boy was me. Anima me. Isn't that true? It always ends like that. And that little boy was. So I would love to tell. I don't even know what happened to that steward. I would love to say, yeah, and he became from. Now he teaches in the center. I don't know what happened to that steward, right? The steward is probably saying nothing. It doesn't matter. It's still a Kiddush Hashem. It's still a Kiddush Hashem. Because you see how a Torah Jew behaves. And if they look at us and they say, that's how a Torah Jew behaves, even though we're so much better than any other group. The newspapers, a guy in the newspaper where a Torah Jew he's caught embezzling. And he goes to, you know what a chilul Hashem that is? You know, desecration of Hashem's name that is? The non-religious and the non-Jewish, they do so much worse on such a higher level. So, but that's a chilul Hashem. And I was in prison twice in my life. I was in prison. But there was twice that I was actually committed a crime. But there was a third time where I actually went to a prison to give a talk. I would give a talk here in Israel. They had a program in the prisons here in Israel. Twice I was in prison. Once I got arrested for jaywalking, and they locked me up, and once I got arrested for disturbing the peace, right? Which I wasn't disturbing. We just drove through an area where the police had said not to cry. There had been an illegal demonstration, and we were driving home. We drove past, and so they arrested us. But I got a record. So watch it. These hands are registered with the police. Yeah. I got tagged. These hands are registered with the police. I got tagged for shoplifting. So what do you call it? They had a program here in Israel in the prisons. So they were doing a kiruv program, and in this kiruv program, they found that the prisoners who become Baal Tshuvas, they had the recidivism rate, which is the return to prison, and normally was 70%. The guys who became Baal Tshuvas in prison, they had a 6% recidivism rate. Wow. So there's actually funding for this program. Now this is back in the day. I was still in Kolol at the time, and it was an Israeli program. It was a hard what do you call it, maximum security prison. And a guy brought me in to give a lecture. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very successful. I didn't feel it was very good. And it was an interesting experience. And at one point, I'm giving this talk, and these guys look like, they got 3 days beard growth, and none of them look like guys you want to meet in a dark alley. And there's one guy sitting in the corner with a long beard, looks like he stepped right out of a gift shop in Mea Shearim or something, And it's every time I quoted a Gemara, this guy's kind of muttering it by himself. As I quote it, he's quoting it along with me. So after the talk, I could tell, he was. So after the talk, I went over. I said, "What? Why are you here?" So he says to me, "I forgot to pay my taxes." He forgot to pay his taxes. Okay, I'm sure the guy had every reason in the world. At the end of the day, it's a chil Hashem. It's unfortunate. It's a chil Hashem. You can't forget to pay your taxes. The shaila that came to Rabbi Yashiv, there's Ruvain lent money to Shimon. He lent to about $100,000 for an investment. And Shimon took the money and he gambled it away. Something messed Ruvain over with the money. So it was $100,000. And so Ruvain went to a Rav, and he asked the Rav, I think it was Rabbi Yashiv, he asked if he is allowed to take Shimon to court. And he can't take him to Beis Din. It was involved taking him to secular court, which you need permission for anyway. And he made up his mind before he asked the Shai, he made up his mind that whatever the Rav Paskins, that's what he's going to do. So Ruvain came and he said, "Can I take him to secular court?" So the Rav said to him, "In secular court, what's going to happen?" He said, He said, first of all, he may get a prison sentence. And a prison sentence, according to halacha, there's no prison sentence for not paying back a debt. There's no prison sentence. So that's number one, against halacha. Number two, he asked him, is it going to be publicized? He says it's going to be all over the media. He said, if it's all over the media, it's going to be a terrible chil Hashem. You can't do it. Because it's going to be a chil Hashem. And so as a result of that, he withdrew. He did not press charges to get his $100,000 back. A chil Hashem is an avera. You have to be very, very careful not to desecrate God's name. It's a very, very severe thing. The Gemara says, I'll give you 3 examples here. The Gemara says that Rav, from the Gemara, Rav, who we come across almost every other day in Gemara, Rav said that if he would go into a store, into a butcher shop, and not pay immediately, he would take meat on credit, that would be a chil Hashem. Why? Well, everybody else gets credit. Why? Because, people may look and say, oh, there's a rabbi. He's got some geschäft over there with the guy. He's giving it to him for free. He says he'll pay, but who knows? You gotta keep it clean. You gotta stay clean. Rabbi Yochanan said that if somebody would see him go 4 amos is 6 feet, gentlemen. If anybody would ever see him walk 6 amos and he's not wearing tefillin and his lips aren't moving, he's not reciting Torah, that's a chil Hashem. How do you like that? How could that be? Honestly, 6 amos. Okay, but you're allowed to go to the bathroom. That, yes. But if they saw him under normal circumstances and he's not got tefillin on and he's not learning this, what does that mean? The answer is very important. We create a certain level for ourselves. We create certain levels for ourselves. Each person, I've created a level, you've created a level, you have a certain level. I expect you at the level you created. That's the standard we hold you to. The standard that a person has created, because remember, once you create a level for yourself, you also get the benefits. The higher your level, the more reward you get. But once you've got that level, then you have a higher level of responsibility. If you're the CEO, you get a higher salary, but you got higher responsibility. If you're the truck driver for the company, you got lower responsibility level, but you also get a lower salary. So we create that level. That's why I say, gentlemen, it's very, very, you may think that, person thinks that nobody's looking at me, nobody's watching me. Oh, yes, you are. You're being watched all over the place. As soon as you put on a yarmulke, you're being watched. Wherever you go, you're being watched. If people sense that you're saying about yourself, I'm an Orthodox Jew, that's why people ask all the time, how could a religious Jew do this, that, and the other? The answer that, well, I guess he's not that religious is not a satisfying answer. How could a religious Jew commit an act of immorality? Well, he's not that religious. That's why I was in the question. That's not what the person meant by the question. What the person meant was, how could a man who promotes himself as a religious Jew, and he sees himself as a religious Jew, how could he succumb to that? And the answer is that people are people. People have weaknesses. That's the answer. But at the end of the day, because he promotes himself, we demonstrate that we're religious, we've got a heightened level of responsibility. All right, gentlemen, I will wish you all a very, very wonderful Shabbos. And to help your Shabbos, you might want to purchase out of a Shabbos table. I will see you, Be'ezer Hashem, next week, possibly Wednesday. If you're back from the Lag BaOmer trip, I don't know what time you're coming back, probably very late. And well, you're going to be with Rabbi Geffen? Yeah, you'll be late. And you'll be late. Hopefully you'll be back by Thursday. And what do you call it? And so hopefully we'll see you by Wednesday.